Great. So as I said, we are discussing ethnicity and tribalism in Ghana. And we would look into details, the concept of ethnicity or a tribe, and then the need to study ethnicity. In fact, studying ethnicity is at the core of sociological studies because it is one of the factors that affect people's behavior, people's actions, and inactions, and everything that they do, how they understand the world around them is influenced by their ethnicity. In the West, they would have added race. So you have race and ethnicity. It also determines how the society is organized, how the majority group in any society oppress the minority group. For us in Ghana, we don't have race. The Black race is the dominant group in Ghana. Only about 2 to 5% of the population is from other races. What we have is the ethnic groupings, and there are a lot of them. We looked at some of them in our discussions last semester when we were looking at migration of the Ghanaian people and where they came from. Okay, so we would use Nukunya's definition, although there are a lot of other definitions of an ethnic group. There are some key factors as to how to define an ethnic group. So basically, there are a group of people who speak the same language. So language is one of the defining characteristics of an ethnic group. And they share the same cultural traits. So you go back to our discussions on culture. That includes the language, the belief system of the people, their religion, okay, their fashion, their food waste and food systems, the way they view the world around them, what we term then the worldview of the people. So you put all of these together as the cultural traits of a group of people. And then they also share one history of origin, and they all claim to have originated from one putative ancestor, or they come from one area. An ethnic group also may or may not have a territorial boundary, but they all have a history of where they originated from. So if you take the Jewish people, they all have one putative ancestor, who is Abraham. So they all believe to have descended from Abraham or David, who they see as one of their, they see as their greatest king ever. Okay, and so the Jews are scattered. You find them everywhere. Yesterday, I was even reading on the BBC that there are a group of people in Nigeria, the Igbos. They believe that they are Jews. And so they are petitioning the Israeli government to recognize them as Jews. Okay, so they are scattered everywhere. And they believe that they are Jews because they claim that they have similar cultural practices to the Jews. And so some of them practice Judaism. Okay, so these are the major characteristics that should define an ethnic group. Language is one, very important and very crucial to every ethnic identity. And then the culture, so that includes their behavior, their belief system, their laws, their values, their food systems, fashion and everything. And then they also claim to have originated from a particular place, even though they may be scattered. You may find them in different places, but they believe that they have originated from a particular place and that they share a common ancestor. We call it putative because the ancestor, the common ancestor may not be real, but they believe that this is our ancestor. And so there are a lot of ethnic groups in Ghana. We have the Dagombe, the Mamprosis, and the Gonjes, the Krobos. We have the Akan ethnic group, the Ga, and the Frafres and the Mamprosis. So we would come to the various ethnic groups in Ghana. Right. So now we're looking at the term ethnocentrism or tribalism. If you like. So ethnocentrism refers to a group of people belonging to one ethnic group who have a strong sense of loyalty and sentimental attachment to the group, and who see themselves as us, as we sociologists would say, like us against them. So their attachment to the group is very strong, and they also have a very strong consciousness of being different from other group. They may see themselves as different from other groups and even as a better group than other group. So when they are with other people belonging to other groups, they would see themselves as a better group. They evaluate themselves and other people based on their own cultural traits, belief system, values, sometimes the food ways, and even the fashion, the way they want to dress. And so it refers to people evaluating themselves above other group and evaluating others based on their own group's character traits. So that is where tribalism or ethnocentrism comes in. So the ethnicity refers to people who share the same language, culture, have the same belief system, and people who believe to have originated from one putative ancestor. Now, they become tribalistic or ethnocentric, okay, when they see themselves as superior to others, and where they evaluate other people based on their own group's standard. And here people become subjective instead of objective when it comes to their interaction with people from other groups. Okay, so Nukunya suggests that tribalism should mean tribal organization or the interrelations between or within tribes, where people would see themselves as superior to other groups. Now, for sociologists, we prefer to use the term ethnic instead of tribe. So we would prefer to say an ethnic group, okay, or ethnocentrism or ethnicity instead of the word tribe or tribalism. This is because of the negative connotation of the term tribe. The English dictionary would define the tribe as a group of primitive people who are organized under a chief and who claims to come from a common ancestor. And that is derogatory. And this term was used by Western anthropologists who were studying other groups. So here, they are even ethnocentric because they are defining other people based on their own standards, okay? So in their own country, they have leaders, they have presidents and other leaders, but they don't define themselves as primitive. So if you go to another country or another group and they are organized under leaders that they prefer to call chiefs, why do you designate them as primitive? And in our second lecture, I was even explaining that they used the term chiefs for our leaders instead of kings and queens. because they didn't want our chiefs or our kings and our queens to have the same title as their own kings and queens. So we prefer to use the term ethnicity or ethnic group. So if you are putting together a questionnaire and you want to know about people's ethnic group, it's better to say an ethnic group or your ethnicity instead of saying your tribe. Okay. Plus, apart from the negative connotation, the word tribe or tribalism also elicits a lot of strong emotions in people. So in Ghana, you would hear politicians from both sides of the divide. I mean, the two biggest political parties in Ghana, MPP and NDC, all of them accusing each other for engaging in tribalism, you know. The NDC would accuse Akufo-Addo of staffing his cabinet and appointees with his brothers and his cousins. And when NDC was in power, the NPP did the same, accusing Mahama of engaging in tribalism. And anytime you use that word, it elicits very strong emotions from people. So as sociologists, we would prefer to use the term ethnicity, ethnic group, or ethnic instead of tribalism. Okay, any questions? Hello?
Hello?
Hi, madam.
Any questions for me?
No.
Yes. No.
Okay.
No question, madam. We are okay.
Okay, great. So we are looking at ethnicity in Ghana. Ghana, we should say, is a polyethnic society, meaning that it is a society made up of over 40 ethnic groups. We have some major ethnic groups, and then there are subgroups. And all of the ethnic groups have a common language, as I have explained, and their cultural practices are also the same, with some minor differences. So for the language, they would have one language, okay, but the dialect is different. Okay, so the Akan ethnic group in Ghana is the majority ethnic group. According to the last census, that is the 2010 population and housing census, they formed about 47.5% of the population in Ghana. And then we have other groups. We have the Gadangbe group, that can be found in the Greater Accra region and parts of the Eastern region. We have the Ewes, the Guans, the Guruma, the Moli, the Bani areas are mainly found in the northern region, the northeast region, and then the Savannah region. And then you have the Grusi, that is made up of the Frafra, the Kusasi, the Kasina, the Mankana, the Talensi, the Mande, and the others. So you group them into a major ethnic group, and then you have subgroups. The languages are almost the same, okay, but you have different dialects. So if you take the Akan, their language is known as the Twi language, that is TWI, or the Akan language. But then you have different dialects. So the Asante Twi, the Fanti Twi, you have the Kriapem Twi, the Achin, the Kwau, the Bono Twi is there, okay? And if you take the Gadangwe, they also have subgroups. So you have the Ga, then you have the Ningo, you have the Krobos, you have the Ada, and the Dangwe other groups. In the Ewe, you have the Anglo Ewes, you have the Tong. So the Anglo Ewes are around the Keta and Nogan itself, those areas. The Tong are those around the Volta Lake. So when you cross the lake after the Sudaman district, the Tong people can be found there. Then the Moli Dagbani, you have the Mamprusi, the Monsi, the Dagomba, and the Nanumba. And so the Dagbani is the language. The Dagomba is the tribe. Okay. So that is how it is classified. So this is a map, like an ethnic map of Ghana. So the brown areas are the Akan areas, which covers the Ashanti, the Eastern, the Central, and the Western region. Now we have divided the regions into so many others. So you have the the Western North, the Bono East, the Bono, and then the Ahafo regions, okay? And then you have the Moli Dagbani areas, the green areas, you have the Ewe group, the lighter brown areas are the Guans. In fact, the Guans are found in so many regions because they are believed to be the indigents of Ghana. That is the original people of Ghana before the other groups migrated. And so you can find the Guans in almost all the regions except the Upper East and the Upper West. So in the eastern regions, the Equiapem, the Latte, and the Tripon people are Guans. In the central region, the Ifutu and the Hutu people, that is the Widiba people, they have their own language that they speak, but you find out that the Fanti is dominant. And so they speak Fanti, but they have their own distinct language, which is the Guan language. If you go to the Western region, the Nzimes, they are Guans, they are Hunters, they all have their distinct language. If you go to the Brong-Ahafo region, the current Bono East region, Prang Yeji, there are Guans there. In the current Oti regions, previously they were part of the Volta region, but the current Oti, you find mostly Guan people there. The Karachi people, the Dambai, they all speak Guans. In the Savannah region, previously they were part of the northern regions, the Gonjes are actually Guans. And so those of you who understand or know the Guan people a little bit, you would realize that their languages are so different from each other. They have certain words in common. So the Tripons, when they speak, the Karachi people would understand, but they cannot speak the language. The Ifutu people can understand the Iwutus, they can understand the Wassa people in the Western region, they can understand the Nzimes and the Ahantes, but they cannot speak the same language. So their languages are a bit distinct. Unlike the Chi, where the Ashantis would easily understand, the Kwewu would easily understand the Achems and the Equiapem language, and even the Fanti language, which is a little bit distinct from the other Akan languages. When you go to the Volta region, among the airways, the Tongu and the Anglons have different languages, but they understand each other and can even speak each other's languages. And so there are so many languages in Ghana, the Frafres and the Grusi people. Right. So as sociologists, why is it important that we study ethnicity? Why is it important that we study ethnicity? I think I made mention earlier on that it is very important that we study ethnicity because it is one of the identifying markers of every ethnic group. And it is one of the distinct way that determines how people behave. It influences their behavior. Okay. So it's important to understand ethnicity. So for instance, when we do research, one of the major data we take is people's ethnic group or people's ethnicity, because it influences a lot of things. So if you're talking about marriage systems, so if you talk about marriage systems, the marriage systems differ from one ethnic group to the other. So marrying an Akan woman is not the same as marrying a Gan woman or marrying a Krobo or marrying a Dagomba or marrying a Mamprusi, and how people would even behave in their marriage is determined by their ethnic group. It determines a whole lot of things. It also influences people's behavior. And so it is very, very important and the core of what we do as sociologists, okay? And apart from that, ethnicity also determines to a very large extent how the resources of a society is shared. And the dominant group in most cases get the larger share of a society's resources because they are a lot in the society. And so when you take Ghana, for instance, because the Akan is the largest group, it will not be far-fetched if we say that they also get the larger share of the society's resources. Because if you look at even the land mass or their geographical distribution, they take almost a half of the society, okay? And so it is very important that we study ethnicity. In the West, it is one of the major identifiers of how society's resources are shared. We can talk about the discrimination of minority groups in certain societies. And also, and that leads to it becoming one of the potential sources of integration and disintegration in societies. So in Ghana, we have a lot of ethnic groups, and during general elections in Ghana, sometimes the political tensions are so high because of the threat of ethnic tensions. So you have NDC criticizing and claiming that the MPP is an Akan party, and they call on other minority groups or minority ethnic groups to boycott NPP and join them. And you have NPP also doing the same. Other countries in sub-Saharan Africa has suffered civil wars because of ethnic tensions. In Nigeria, just next door, you always have ethnic tensions between the Igbos and the Yorubas. If you have heard about the Biafran War in the 1960s towards the early 1970s, the Igbos wanted to secede from Nigeria. In Cameroon right now, we have ethnic tensions between the East and the West of that country. And we all remember the unfortunate genocide that happened in Rwanda between the Hutus and the Tutsis, okay? And so it's very important that we understand ethnicity, their dominant beliefs and practices, okay? And as sociologists, as you study ethnicity, you can correct some of the inequalities that exist between the various ethnic groups and correct them as a way of preventing ethnic tensions in the country. Luckily for us in Ghana, we don't have a lot of ethnic tensions. Yes, there are some tensions here and there. In the Upper East regions, in Boko, in Northern region, the Kokombes and the Nanumbes and the Dagombes, you know, what is popularly known as the Guinea Fowl War, which was some skirmishes that occurred in the Northern region in the 1990s, when there was a conflict between the Kokombes and other dominant groups in the Northern region, the Dagombes and the Mamproses. And that is how come the Agbogloshi as a slum area developed, and even Ashiaman, because most people fled the conflict over there to Accra. Okay. So the causes of ethnic tensions, the sharing of national assets. So I've talked about that, and that includes political power or positions, okay? And then the allocation of development. So in the Rwandan genocide, the tensions occurred over the sharing of political power. The Tutsis are in a minority and the Hutus are in the majority. However, political power in Rwanda has been in the hands of the Tutsis, who are the smaller group in that country, and the Hutus, who are in the majority, were not happy. In 2006, there was political tension in Kenya, which nearly resulted in a civil war amongst the various ethnic groups. since independence in Kenya, the dominant group, the Kikiyus, have always had the political power, and other groups are not very happy with them. So the sharing of political positions can result in ethnic tensions. I was talking about elections in Ghana, where both major parties in Ghana always play the ethnic card. Mahama came, and majority of his government ministers are from the north, and Akufo-Addo has come, and majority of his cabinet are chimps. Kufuor suffered the same thing. President Rawlings suffered the same accusation. So that can create ethnic tensions. And then the next is the sharing of assets, of development, of good roads, of markets, of hospitals. If the smaller groups feel that they are not getting an equal share of the national assets, that can give rise to ethnic tensions. But the politicians would say that it is a national security threat, because when one ethnic group is dissatisfied with the sharing of the national assets, it can lead to tension, and then a conflict can ensue because of the tension that arises from the dissatisfaction with a section of the country. Okay, and then apart from the sharing of one of the national assets, the other major sources of tension is land disputes or boundary disputes. And in Ghana, we have had a few of those, the conflict between the Kokombes and the Nanumbes, the Kokombes and the Dagombes, the Nkonya and the Alavanyo, the Kusasi and the Mamprusi. And I have told you in our discussions on the political institution that these land boundary disputes arose because of the realignment of the towns and villages into different chieftaincy districts. And so in our discussion on the Cephalos political institutions, the Nanumbes and the Kokombes, these are Cephalos societies. These are societies that did not have chiefs or kings, if you like, but the British realigned them, placed chiefs over them, and this has created problems. And we know that a claim to a stool or a skin always comes with a claim to the land, because every chief has a boundary, they have land. So if you don't have a chief or a king over you, as in the case of the Nanumba and then the Kokomba, but one has been imposed upon you, then where is your boundaries? And we know that originally these groups, that's the Nanumbers and the Kokombers, they do not have a distinct demarcation of their territories because they did not have chiefs. Okay, so now they are struggling, okay, to determine where their boundaries are. And they are claiming that the adjoining ethnic groups, that is the Dagombes and the Kokombes and the Mampruses and the Kusasis have taken over their land. And so that dispute is raging on. Sometimes they go underground and then something triggers the conflict. So in the guinea fowl conflict, not that they were fighting over a guinea fowl, but a disagreement over the guinea fowl triggered the already simmering tensions between the groups that fought. So we have to be very careful, especially in the sharing of national assets. For the boundary disputes, that one, it will take a very long time. So the Nkonya and the Alavanyo conflict, what the government has done is that the government has taken ownership of the land. That is the source of the conflict between the Nkonya and the Alavanyo, and has turned it into a military training ground. That is how the government has tried to solve the decades-old conflict between the Nkonya and the Alavanyo. For the Konkombes and the Nanombes, people have said that let them have two chiefs. So like the Boku conflict between the Kokombes and the Kusasis. And people have said that we should have two chiefs. We should install two chiefs. How can you have like two chiefs in a town? Okay, so the problems are there. They have not been solved. We don't seem to have an idea about how to solve the problems. And so something trivial would normally trigger the conflict. Sometimes they can turn into a full-blown civil war if it is not handled well. So we have a lot of civil wars going on in other parts of Africa, in Sudan. Now we have Sudan, South Sudan, in Somalia. There is conflict there. The southern part of Somalia, they have succeeded and they call themselves Somaliland, but they are not recognized by any international body. Ghanaians are a bit lucky because we have not had any civil war, even though the conflicts that I have explained earlier on exists. Maybe what has helped us is the intermarriages amongst the various ethnic groups. Any questions? Right. So what are the consequences of tribalism or ethnocentrism. So I've alluded to portions of it, but for emphasis sake, let me just go through them. So number one is that it can lead to civil war. It can lead to conflict. It can bring about instability nationally. And so I've explained the Hutus and the Tutsis conflicts, which led to the genocide in Rwanda, where 800,000 people were killed in 1 month of the war. Then you have the Biafran War in Nigeria, where the Igbos wanted to secede. That conflict was quelled. It was, in fact, a very bloody civil war. The tensions are reduced, but recently it has started again, and some of the leaders have been arrested. I was attending a conference in London in 2016, and the hotel that we were at hosting the conference, there was a security guard. Apparently he was Nigerian. So when he saw that we were coming from Ghana, he was so happy, and started talking. And he was like, I am an Igbo man, and I am working here hard in London, and I will go back to Nigeria and help my people to fight. We want independence. And I was surprised, because the Biafran War was somewhere in the late 1960s, coming to the early 1970s. That was so many years ago. And this is somebody far away in Britain who was still talking about Biafra, that they want to have their own country, that they don't want to be part of Nigeria. Okay, and you have Kenya, we have a simmering tension in Cameroon right now, okay? And all these conflicts, as I have explained in some of the other lectures, is because because of the demarcation of Africa into countries. Before colonialism, these ethnic groups were states of their own, okay? They were nations. So the Ashanti state was there, which extended all the way to the current Ahafo region and the Bono region. Okay, that is how the Ashanti kingdom extended to. If you take the Anglos, we have Anglos in Togo, okay, across the border, and they are family, okay. If you take the Akan, we have Akans in Ivory Coast across the border, okay. If you go to the northern regions, I was watching a documentary on GBC, and some of the ethnic groups along the border, okay, have family across the border to Togo. And in fact, their ancestral town is in Togo. So every year, they just cross the border to Togo and perform their rituals. They are there. In the Upper East region, when you cross the border, they are all family. And for them, there is no Ghana and there is no Togo. There is no Burkina Faso and there is no Ghana. Okay, so when we are registering people for elections or the Ghana card, they just cross the border and come to Ghana, because those across the border is just family. So the same thing applies to all the other ethnic groups across Africa. If you take the Fulanis, you can find them in northern Nigeria. That is their ancestral home. But then they also extend into Mali as far as Niger. Okay. In Niger, there is an ethnic group that stretches into 5 different countries. Okay. So when the countries were demarcated, these ethnic groups were divided and they have become minority in other countries. But if they were not divided, they would have been one strong ethnic group. And so that has been the source of the conflicts in Africa, all over Africa. You find these conflicts because of the demarcation of Africa, where one ethnic group found itself within a certain country where they are a minority, and another ethnic group finds themselves in another country where they become the minority. So it can bring about conflict, and sometimes these conflicts have raged on for decades, and there is no letting up of the conflict because people don't know how to solve the conflict. Okay, so conflict is one. It can lead to ethnocentrism or tribalism, if you like. And this is where people prefer their ethnic group over others when it comes to the sharing of national assets. Okay, so I've said that in government, sometimes the positions go to just one ethnic group, and the others don't have any positions in their group, and that raises a lot of tensions in the country. It can have an impact on the bureaucratic procedure, where we call it nepotism, favoring people from one country over the other. Okay, it can also lead to stereotyping. Okay, where people who belong to one ethnic group are believed to have the same characteristics. So we evaluate people from the ethnic groups the same way. We don't understand that individuals are different, no matter where they come from. Okay, so you see an Ashanti man and you say, oh, all Ashantis are braggarts, they like to brag, the things that they don't have, they would say they have. The things that they cannot do, they would say that they can do, and okay. People would say that the Kwewus are stingy.
Oh, madam, it's a lie, I'm an Ashanti.
You're an Ashanti, okay.
It's a lie. Yeah.
So we'll see. Okay. So people will say that the Kwewus are stingy. They don't.
Madam, please, what tribe are you?
I'll tell you, if you see me in private, I will tell you. Okay.
Yes, madam.
So, so we have stereotyped the ethnic groups, okay, and then the stereotypes can lead to prejudice. And prejudice is when people act on their stereotypes. You have negative feeling towards people because of the stereotypes you have about them, because of the beliefs that you have about them. So stereotyping is not good because it leads to prejudice. So some parents would not allow their sons and daughters to marry from other ethnic groups because of the stereotypes we have about them. So if a parent objects to their son or daughter marrying from a certain ethnic group, it means that that parent is being prejudicial, right? So an Asante man will say that, Tofiakwa, I'll never allow my daughter to marry a Fanti because they build skyscrapers in their stomach. Or the Ashanti man would say, I will not allow my son to marry a Fanti because they can never do anything. They can never invest. They butter their bread on both sides. They can even toast kenke, the Fantis. Or they would say that you will not allow them to marry a Kwa woman, because if you marry a Kwa woman, he will never buy a cloth for you, I will never allow my son or daughter to marry an Ewe. I will not allow them to marry a Gagomba. I will not allow them to marry a Gan, Mupentokwa, that kind of thing. That is being prejudicial. So tribalism or ethnocentrism is not good because it can lead to prejudicial tendencies, and that can also lead to discrimination where people are denied certain resources in the society. Some people would not employ others from other ethnic group. You find only members from their ethnic group in their organizations or in their companies, to the extent that sometimes people have to hide their ethnic identities. In Ghana, when you mention your name, people know where you are coming from. Okay, so some people will just drop the name that identifies them and they will take on another name, maybe an English name, so that it will be difficult identifying them with an ethnic group. But even then, when people have European names, so like these are Fantis, you know, the Browns and the Whites and the Johnsons and the Masons, and, you know, you would conclude. So in Ghana and even in Africa, it's somehow difficult hiding your ethnic identities. But I know there are people who try to hide their ethnic identities because of fear of discrimination and prejudicial behaviors against them. So these are the negative consequences of ethnocentrism. However, ethnocentrism can have its positive side. It can be beneficial. And it is beneficial when these ethnic groups come together, okay, to form ethnic associations or tribal associations. So in Accra, we have the Ewe group that normally come together, especially the Anglo Ewes. Normally they come together and form the Bobobo group. And so if a member is marrying or there is a funeral, you always see them there. They are there to lend support to their member. And it's always a delight, you know, to see them. I think it is the only ethnic group in Ghana that you see them performing their cultural songs and their cultural dances outside their territories. There is the Fanti Association, Asante Association. That is when they find themselves outside their ethnic groups. Even on campus here, we have the Ashanti Union Association, the Anglo Union Association, and all of those groups. And they come together and raise funds and sometimes for development projects back in their hometowns. Okay. Another positive aspect of the ethnic groupings is that they are always the first support for new migrants wherever they find themselves. They are a form of social support. So you find ethnic enclaves always in big cities and even in small towns. So in Accra, you find ethnic enclaves. If you go to Old Fadama, the Agugloshi area, you find people from Northern Ghana. So when they come to Accra, that is the first place they go to. If you go to Kumasi, there is Fanti New Town. In almost every settlement, I'm using the word settlement because in big cities, whether it is a village or wherever, you find Zongos there. And the Zongos, even in Tamale, there is a Zongo in Tamale. And the first time I heard it, I was a bit surprised because we normally associate the Zongos with people from Northern Ghana. But apparently the Zongo, I think, is a Hausa word, and that means a place for strangers. So even in Tamale, there are people who are not Dagombes who would find themselves in the Zongo in Tamale. So every village that you go, there is a Zongo there, a place where migrants stay. And normally when a new migrant comes, that is where they find themselves. So if you're a Ghanaian and you even find yourself in the US, in the UK, you first of all ask for places where there are Ghanaians. If there are no Ghanaians, you would want to be in a place where at least you find other Africans, and they are always there as a support group here in Ghana and in elsewhere. So there are places you would find Nigerians, that is people from Niger. There are places where you would find Nigerians congregating. If you go to Hachu, you'll find a lot of Nigerians there, because they would support you to find your feet. If you go to Tamale and you are a Ga, you are looking for at least one Ga, or where the Gans are, or where the Akans are, you associate yourself with them. At least they will show you around town where to get the things that you need before you get your own place and move away. And normally people do not move very far away from where their ethnic groups are. So you go to the US and there is a Chinatown, you find a place where you find a lot of Indians, congregating. If you go to the Bronx, you'll find a lot of Ghanaians there. If you go to Toronto, you will find a lot of Ghanaians. When you are in Toronto, you would forget that you are in Canada, because you meet a lot of Ghanaians on the bus, you meet them at the shopping malls, they have their own churches. And so there is the Church of Pentecost Ghana in the US, there's a Presbyterian Church of Ghana in Amsterdam, there is the Methodist Church of Ghana in Britain, in Italy, you find them in so many places because they form like a social network group where they provide support to each other and also to new entrants. So identifying yourself with an ethnic group is actually not a bad thing, okay? The negativity comes in when people look down upon other ethnic groups because of the differences they have. So the Ashanti man would not understand where the Gans should eat kenke as their dinner. For them, if they don't eat fufu, it means that they have fasted, And during funerals, when the Akan says that they are fasting, what it means is that they are not eating fufu. But all other food is not food. Once you eat fufu, you have eaten, and people would look down upon them. And when the resources are not shared equally, to the extent that smaller groups feel they are being discriminated against, then you have a problem. But you can find unity in diversity. Okay, any questions? Okay, So if you don't have any question, we are looking at how to contain tribalism or ethnocentrism. And I've said that the tribalism and the ethnocentrism is when one group is discriminated against, where you have ethnic conflicts, where people think that they are superior to other ethnic groups. And so we want to reduce ethnocentrism, not to do away with tribal groups or ethnic groups or ethnicity, but the ism that is attached, you know, where there is discrimination, where there is inequality, where there is conflict. That is where what we are seeking to reduce. Okay, so on your screen, you can see some suggestions that have been made on how to contain or reduce ethnocentrism. So one is the deliberate sharing of common space. Okay, that is one. And in fact, this was the approach adopted in Malaysia by their iconic leader, Lee Kuan Yew. Am I right? Yes. Okay. So when Malaysia was founded as a nation, there was a deliberate effort to reduce ethnocentrism, thereby reducing conflict. So Malaysia is made up of the dominant group, which is the Malay group, and other minority groups in there. So you have people of Chinese origin and other smaller groups. And what the government did at that time is to construct housing, a lot of housing. So they embarked on a huge housing project, okay, and where they would house people from different ethnic groups. And so the consequence of that was that people didn't have the chance to buy their own houses and thereby determining where they want to live. And so there were a lot of houses you apply, and then the government would give you a home within that complex. So in that sense, people were forced to coexist with others from different ethnic groups. But the question is, can the same be done for Ghana? Can you force people to share a space if they don't want to? Okay. The second suggestion is to increase inter-tribal marriages. Already we see a lot of intertribal marriages in Ghana, people marrying from ethnic groups other than their own. You see Ashantis married to Ewes, married to Dagombes, Dagombes marrying Mamprusis, Dagombes marrying Munshi people, Gans marrying people from the adjoining communities around them, the Kriapim and the Ewes, or they are marrying into the Fantis, the central region. But can you really force people to marry from other ethnic groups? So that is one. Banning of political parties along tribal lines is feasible. In fact, that is what our constitution stipulates, that when you form an ethnic group, you must have the founders come from all the tribes from all the regions in Ghana. So you cannot form a regional party. You cannot form the Ewe People's Party and not have other people endorse it. So largely, that provision in the Constitution has been followed, but that does not prevent people from accusing others of being from a dominant ethnic group in Ghana. So that is 3. And then people have also suggested that the punishment for nepotism should be dire. If people are nepo, please nepotism, they should be punished, you know. So if somebody is hiring, they have to show that they have advertised their position. So in Ghana, if you're a government agency and you are advertising, you have to advertise nationally for people to apply. You cannot employ people based on their ethnic group, and people should be punished if they are they place nepotism. So that is another suggestion. And another one is that the Zongos should be abolished. So the asterisk there indicates that, can you really abolish Zongos? Can you prevent people from living where they wish? So that is also a question mark on that suggestion. And then people have also suggested that we should have a common lingua franca. That is a common language. So in Kenya, they have succeeded in doing that. So Swahili is their lingua franca in addition to English. So most Kenyans speak Swahili. If you are educated, then at least you would be able to read and write in Swahili. In Ghana, we have not been able to agree on a common language. There have been suggestions that Twi, which is the Akan language, should be the lingua franca because the Akans are the dominant group, and majority of people speak Akan, but people from the other ethnic groups have kicked against that. So English remains our lingua franca, but the nationalists have also argued that why should we have a foreign language as a lingua franca and not a local language? Of course, as I have explained, some ethnic groups feel discriminated against, so they would never agree that everybody should learn Twi, or we should make a word a lingua franca, or we should make Dagomba, Dagbani, which is the language of the Dagombes. We should make Dagbani the language, or Mampruli, which is the language of the Mamprisi. We should make it the Lingua Franca. But the bottom line is, if you make one of the local languages the Lingua Franca, would that eventually reduce the ethnic tensions, okay? And then the last suggestion is that the country should be organized into a federalist country, like in Nigeria. So you have the Federal Republic of Nigeria, where they have federals. And other places, they call it states. So the United States is organized along state lines. Some call it provinces or wherever. But the concept is regionalism or federalism, so that you organize them in block. So all the Akan areas would have like one region or one state or one province, if you like. All the Ewe groups would have one boundary or state or province or region, okay? In regionalism, the various groups are semi-autonomous. So development agendas and development projects are decided at the federal level, not by the state, okay? So if you are able to generate your own income, you use it yourself. So you determine how you want to be organized. It doesn't come from the center. So that is the idea behind federalism. So that if you organize the nation along federalist lines, it means that the various ethnic groups would be semi-autonomous. They would decide on how they want to be governed. They will decide on the development that they want to have. And then the center would only make broad policies. Okay, so if you look at the US, for instance, the center, that is the government, does not make policies on schools, or we want to build a hospital here, or we want to construct a road there. And they look at the broader picture, policies on migration, who can come to America and who cannot come to America. Policies on international relations, who America wants to associate with and who they don't want to associate with. Those are the policies that the center, the national level would focus on, but they would not focus on development. And we want to go and build a village school here. That will be decided by the state. Okay, so so these are some of the suggestions that have been made, or ways that you can reduce ethnic tensions. And then, of course, in the sharing of national assets, there must be equality. And the sharing of national assets, I divided it into two. One is political office and one is resources. So if you want to contain tribalism, that is all that people care about. They care about their day-to-day living, where to live, where to go to school, have access to healthcare at a lower price. That is what people care about. So if those things are shared equally and there is no discrimination, ethnic tensions would come down drastically, right? And so when you're talking about the suggestions and ways to reduce the ethnic tensions, you have to look at it in terms of its feasibility, whether the suggestions would work. So in the past, when we asked this question on this, we've asked students to assess, the suggestions that have been made. So if you say deliberate sharing of common space, don't just say that, oh, you have to force people to live in one place, blah, blah, blah. Yes, you say that, but you have to look at whether that idea is implementable. Can it be feasible in its implementation? That is what you have to think about. How would these pan out? Yes, it is a good suggestion, but I don't think it would work, or I think that this is not a good suggestion. You can think of other ways of reducing ethnicity and ethnocentrism. Okay, so any question? Yes, I'm Pemdako.
Good morning, madam.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I'm very grateful for you all as well, the way you teach us or you lecture us. I'm very, very happy about it. I admire your posture whenever you are lecturing. You give us the chance to speak or to say whatever we don't understand or what we understand. But I think today, I don't know if you have been able or you have observed the number of participants. It is very, very, very minimal, 54 as at now. Regarding our course, sociology essay, when we started level 100, there were many people reading sociology, but the first semester exam, I think it gave many a blow. Second semester, it gave them additional blow. And then when we came to level 200, it was even marvelous that people always complain about sociology as if it is the lecturers, but we cannot tell whether it is the lecturers, or it is the course itself, or it is this.
Hello? Hello, I'm Pemdako. Are you there? Hello? Pemdako, are you there? Okay, so I cannot hear him. I think his connection is bad. Yes, so thank you for that observation. Yes, we are aware that the numbers keep reducing as students move up the ladder. As lecturers, nobody is happy when our students don't do well. Lecturers are never interested when their students fail or they don't do well in their class. So it's a source of worry to all of us. But what we believe, is that students approach sociology the same way that they would approach other courses. In sociology, we try to analyze society, analyze people's behavior and how these behaviors are influenced by society. Okay. So just now, the last slide, I gave you a clue that in the past, we've asked questions on that. And in a question, we've asked students to assess, the suggestions that have been given to contain tribalism. But you would find out that 90% of the students would not do that. Most of them would just talk about ways of containing or reducing ethnic tension without really looking at whether that suggestion that is being made is feasible. Okay, so that has been the problem. People approach it differently. And so, for instance, if you are doing information studies or any other course dealing with computers, and I ask you what is the function of the shift key, and that is very straightforward. But in sociology, we are not going to ask you what is the function of the shift key. Maybe we would want to know that if you don't press the shift key, what would happen. But students will be thinking about, so what is this? What is that? Okay. And so when lecturers are assessing, there are 3 levels of assessment. The first level is recall. Okay. At that level, we are asking you, what is this? So what is maybe ethnicity? That is a recall question. That is knowledge-based. We just want you to recall what you have learned. So what are the different ethnic groups in Ghana? These are recall questions, okay? So that is the first level of assessment. And the second level of assessment is synthesizing, okay? Synthesizing, you are taking 2 ideas and you are putting them together, okay, to form a coherent idea. So for instance, right now, we have discussed ethnicity, okay? So in synthesizing, you can take ethnicity and marriage, okay? Look at ethnic affiliation and their influence on marriage. You can put ethnicity and politics together. What is the impact of ethnicity or the influence of ethnicity on politics? You can put ethnicity and even religion together. What is the religion of the various ethnic groups? And then the third level of assessment is analysis. We want you to analyze the thing. Look at the pros and the cons of the analysis. That is the positives, the benefits of the analysis. You look at the implications of the analysis and whatnot. Okay. And so we have realized, I'm using we because as a department and as a faculty, we also talk about these things, that as soon as you move the assessment from a recall question to a synthesized one or to an analysis-based questions, students begin to fumble. And that is because the things that students learn, they learn it in isolation, even of their reality, okay? Students are not able to link what they learn in the classroom to their reality and to what happens outside. If I ask you a question now to give me an example of a conflict that is raging on in Africa, okay, that is an example of ethnocentrism or ethnic conflict as a result of the inequality that exists in the sharing of national resources. And I would not even get 10 students who would be able to give me an example. Okay, so that is what happens. When students learn, they learn in isolation. They think that what they are learning in the classroom is just theory, but the theory is born out of the reality and what happens in real society. We are just trying to understand what is happening in the society in a theoretical form. Even this course is not about theory, okay? So I believe it is the way that students approach sociology and how students learn. When they learn, they are just reading and they are just reading and they are just reading without really understanding what they are reading. So when you twist the question just a little bit, then people would fumble. So that is one. Two is that we've realized that students don't like reading. From last semester, I've been saying that go and buy Nukunya. Can you show me by hand how many people bought that book? And I've said that you will use that book for all the courses that you are doing in level 200, except basic concepts. How many people bought that book? People are just reading the slides, and slides, they are just point-based. But how many people are reading the textbook? In other jurisdiction, one course, you'll be prescribed 3 textbooks, and you will be reading chapter by chapter. So the lecturer will say, read chapter 2 for tomorrow's class, or read chapter 3 for tomorrow's class. And you will see that all students will come to class prepared. And all that the lecturer does is just to explain, and people are asking questions. But I come to class, even with level 400, the first thing students ask is that, Madam, are you going to give us the slides? That is what students are interested in. They don't want to read, but the book is just 50 Ghana or 60 Ghana. I don't know how much it's being sold now. And you are using it for the whole year, and people don't want to read. And you want to pass when you are not reading. That is not possible. The university education